Welcome to the channel Mirelle Tales. Before we start, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now, let's get into today's story.
Hello everyone, we're sharing an original story. The main lights in the bedroom were off. Only the two warm, red-tinted bedside lamps emitted a dim, romantic glow. I covered my mouth desperately, not even daring to breathe too hard. Curled up like a cooked shrimp, I hid underneath the massive king-sized bed. The chill from the hardwood floor seeped through my knees and straight into my bones, but my heart was burning hot, filled with the shy anticipation of a newlywed bride. Today was my big day. The wedding reception at the downtown hotel had just wrapped up. My parents had arranged for the guests to sing and drink in the private lounges downstairs. I used the excuse of being dizzy from too much champagne to slip away early and head back to our new home. This 3,000 square foot luxury penthouse in the heart of the city was bought in full in cash by my parents. It was entirely my premarital property worth over $10 million and decorated like a palace. Jacob always said he came from a poor rural town and could never afford a place like this. I didn't care. What I cared about was him. I cared about his meticulous care for me and the sincere heart of a man who would stand in line for 2 hours in a freezing blizzard just to buy me my favorite artisan cronuts from across town. I had originally planned to take a shower slip into the expensive silk nightgown I had prepared and wait for him on the bed, but somehow a mischievous thought popped into my head. I remembered a romantic comedy I had seen, where the bride hides, making the groom search frantically for her. So I lifted the long cascading bedskirt and shimmied under the bed, like a little girl playing hide-and-seek. The space underneath was huge. I lay flat on my stomach, pressing my ear to the floor, listening carefully. The hallway carpets were thick, but I could still feel the faint vibrations of footsteps. He was here. The door handle clicked softly, and the door was pushed open. I was giggling to myself, imagining Jacob's anxious and helpless expression when he found the room empty. I had even planned exactly how I would jump out to scare him. But when those feet stepped into the bedroom and into my line of sight, the smile on my face instantly froze. Those weren't Jacob's black leather dress shoes. They were a pair of bright red stiletto heels. My mind buzzed, going completely blank. Who was this? A bridesmaid? A guest who wandered into the wrong room? No, that was impossible. Only Jacob and I had the keys to the penthouse. How could anyone else get in? Immediately after, the strong, pungent smell of cheap perfume drifted through the gap in the bedskirt, nearly making me cough out loud. This was definitely not the Chanel I wore, and Jacob never wore perfume at all. I held my breath, my eyes wide, watching those red heels pace around my bedroom. She walked over to my vanity and pulled open my drawers, rummaging through my things. Then she walked to my walk-in closet and yanked the doors open. "Oh my God," a woman's voice sneered. "These spoiled rich city girls really are something else. I don't even recognize half the designer labels in here. Tisk, tisk. This dress probably costs thousands of dollars. Money to burn, huh?" The voice was shrill, dripping with thick, acidic jealousy. I didn't recognize it at all. Who was she? How did she get the keys to my house? Why was she going through my things on my wedding night? My heart started to race. A heavy stone pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. A sinister premonition wrapped around my neck like a venomous snake. The red heels left the closet and walked straight to the bed. The mattress dipped heavily above me. She sat right over my head. The expensive, custom-made mattress let out a faint sigh. Then I heard the sound of dialing on a phone, followed by the click of the speakerphone turning on. Ring. Ring. The call connected. "Hello, Jessica. Did you get inside all right?" The moment I heard that voice, the blood in my veins turned to ice. It was my mother-in-law, Martha. The same Martha who just hours ago at the wedding held my hands, calling me her sweet daughter, crying that Jacob marrying me was the greatest blessing their humble family could ever ask for. The same woman who brought me baskets of farm-fresh eggs from the country, her rough, calloused hands making her look like a simple, honest country woman. How could she be on the phone with this woman named Jessica? And judging by their tone, they weren't just acquainted, they were incredibly close. "Yeah, Mom, I'm in," Jessica replied. "The key you gave me worked perfectly. Let me tell you, this place is massive. It makes the mayor's house back in our town look like a dumpster. And the closet, it's stuffed with designer clothes. It makes my eyes hurt just looking at it." "Mom." She called my mother-in-law, Mom. My pupils dilated. I bit down hard on the back of my own hand to stifle a gasp. Tears instantly welled up, mixing with the dust under the bed streaking down my face. What was going on? Jacob was an only child. Since when did Martha have a daughter? And even if she was an adopted daughter, why would she sneak into my new home on my wedding night using a spare key? Martha's voice came through the speaker, chuckling with unbridled greed and calculation. "Oh, my sweet Jessica, take it easy now. Don't hurt my precious grandson." Of course the house is nice. It's a luxury penthouse downtown. Jacob told me that dumb girl's parents paid over $10 million for it. All cash, not a single cent in mortgages. $10 million. Jessica sighed. That's an insane amount of money. I knew she was a clueless idiot, but I didn't realize her parents were that loaded. But Mom, the deed is still in her name alone. It has nothing to do with Jacob yet. It makes me sick. Why does she get to live in a mansion like this? I'm the one carrying Jacob's actual flesh and blood. A big, healthy baby boy. Why does that spoiled brat get all this? Boom. A clap of thunder exploded in my brain, making me dizzy. My internal organs felt like they were being ripped apart. Pregnant. Grandson. Jacob's flesh and blood. My body began to shake violently, completely out of my control. My teeth bit down on my lip until I tasted the metallic tang of blood. Suddenly, everything made sense. No wonder Jacob always stopped just short of taking things further, always saying he wanted to save the most beautiful moment for our wedding night. No wonder Martha looked at my flat stomach at the wedding with such a deeply mocking, meaningful smile. No wonder Jacob suddenly suggested moving his mother in with us a few days ago, secretly making a spare key just in case. It was all a setup. A complete, absolute scam. My gentle, considerate, honest husband. My mother-in-law, who supposedly treated me like her own. They were demons who would eat a person without spitting out the bones. Not only did he have another woman, but she was pregnant, and they had the audacity to let her walk right into my bridal suite with a spare key on my wedding night. Martha's voice continued over the phone, every word a poisoned dagger plunging into my heart. "Jessica, don't rush. Good things come to those who wait." Jacob already told me that naive girl is head over heels for him. Once the wedding is done, Jacob will sweet-talk her a bit. He'll say he wants his name on the deed for security. Do you think she'd ever say no? Once his name is on it, half of this house is ours. Then we slowly bleed her parents dry. Jacob said she's an only child. All their money will eventually be ours anyway. Yeah, half the house, Jessica scoffed, filled with venom. But what about the other half? I refuse to let my son grow up looking at that woman's face. And what if she gets pregnant too? No way. Jacob is mine. This house needs to be all mine. She stomped her red heel on my bedroom floor, sending a jarring vibration through my skull. Pa. As if she deserves to carry our family's seed, Martha spat. Don't worry, Jessica. Jacob knows what he's doing. He said once he gets you settled in the city, and you have the baby, he has a way to deal with her. Young people these days get severe depression all the time, right? Or they get into tragic car crashes. As long as she's dead and gone, the house, the cars, the cash, it all goes to Jacob. And what's Jacob's is yours and my grandson's. My eyes widened in pure horror. The tears broke like a dam. Murder. They were planning to murder me. For my house and my money, they didn't just want to con me out of my feelings, they wanted to kill me. I couldn't believe my ears. This was the Jacob who swore he loved me, who promised my parents he would cherish me forever. They weren't humans. They were monsters wearing human skin. I bit down on my arm so hard to keep from making a sound. The physical pain kept my last shred of sanity intact. I couldn't jump out. I absolutely could not jump out right now. If I exposed them now, all I could do was scream at them. The house was mine pre-marriage. They couldn't take it yet. But they would cling to me like leeches, and in their desperation they might even hurt my parents. I had to endure. I had to collect evidence. I was going to make this family of 3 pay a horrific price. Just then, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the hall. "Jessica, why are you in the master bedroom?" It was Jacob. His voice was hushed, carrying a hint of anxiety and blame, but no anger. I knew this voice so well. For 3 years, he used this voice to say goodnight to me. But hearing it now, it sounded like a death warrant from hell, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Oh, Jacob, I missed you." Jessica's voice instantly turned, sickeningly sweet and whiny. "Watching you stand at the altar with that woman today, putting a ring on her finger. My heart ached so much. Look, our son even kicked. He's upset for his daddy, too." The mattress shifted violently. I guessed Jacob sat down and pulled her into his arms. All right, I know you've suffered, my little baby, Jacob cooed. Mom, you're still on speaker. Hang up for now. I just came to check on Jessica. I need to get back downstairs immediately. I haven't finished the toasts yet, and her snobby relatives are trying to get me drunk. Okay, I won't bother you two, Martha chuckled. Jacob, be careful. Don't let that stupid girl notice anything. Jessica is pregnant, so cater to her every whim. I know, Mom. Go to sleep. The phone hung up. The room was quiet for a moment, followed by the nauseating sounds of wet kissing and heavy breathing. Jacob, are you really going to sleep in this bed with that woman tonight? Jessica whined. I hate it. This is supposed to be my bed. Baby, stop fussing, Jacob whispered. Tonight is the wedding night. If I don't sleep in the same room, she'll run crying to her parents tomorrow. Her folks aren't fools. If they figure out our plan, we're finished. Be a good girl. In a few days, I'll fake a business trip and take you to Aspen, okay? The luxury resort you always wanted to go to. To him, I was just a stepping stone reeking of copper, a fool who made him sick to his stomach. All right, I'm out of time, Jacob said. I have to get downstairs before Chloe gets suspicious. You need to clean up and get back to the guest room. Don't leave a single trace. Tomorrow, when she goes to her parents' house, I'll sneak you some nice food. You better come see me quick, Jessica demanded. And look at all those designer bags in her closet. Bring me that pink one tomorrow. I want it. Whatever you say, my little queen. Forget one bag. Once this house is ours, everything she owns will be yours. After the rustling of clothes, their footsteps finally left the room. The door opened and closed. The penthouse returned to a dead silence. Only the two red bedside lamps continued to cast their mocking glow. I don't know how long I lay under that bed. My limbs were completely numb. My tears had dried, leaving my face tight and streaked with salt. Like a puppet with its strings cut, I agonizingly dragged myself out from beneath the bed. When I finally stood up and looked in the vanity mirror, I barely recognized myself. My hair was a mess. My meticulously applied bridal makeup was completely ruined, the eyeliner smudged into dark hollows. I looked as pale as a corpse. My expensive silk nightgown was covered in dust. This wasn't a happy bride. This was a vengeful ghost clawing her way out of a grave. I slowly walked to the bed, staring at the indentation Jessica had left on my bridal mattress. A strong wave of nausea hit me. I violently ripped off the expensive red bedding, the pillowcases, and the duvet, and shoved all of it into the corner trash can. Dirty. It was filthy. I walked into the master bathroom, turned on the shower, and set the water to the coldest temperature. The freezing water cascaded over me, stripping away the last bit of warmth in my body. I scrubbed my skin raw as if trying to wash away every look, every touch Jacob had ever laid on me. Under the icy spray, my brain went into overdrive. Jacob was going to pretend to be blackout drunk tonight. He didn't want to touch me, which was exactly what I wanted because right now, looking at him would make me vomit. Martha was going to play the sweet mother-in-law tomorrow, and that woman Jessica was currently living in my guest room, dreaming of stealing my life. They thought their plan was flawless. They thought I was a helpless piece of meat on their chopping block, but they never calculated that a childish whim to play hide-and-seek would lead me to overhear their entire demonic conspiracy. I turned off the shower, dried myself, and changed into a clean set of loungewear. I pulled a digital voice recorder out of my drawer, one I had bought, to document our wedding planning. Now it was going to be the first weapon in my counterattack. I sat at the vanity, carefully removing the ruined makeup with a cotton pad. The woman in the mirror slowly transformed. The despair and agony in her eyes hardened into ice, igniting into a blazing fire of vengeance. Jacob, Martha, Jessica. You want to play? Fine, let's play. You want my house, my money, and my life? I swear to God, starting tonight, I will show your family what it truly feels like to fall from heaven straight into hell. I will make you vomit out every single cent you've ever taken from me with interest. I will ruin your reputations, bankrupt you, and make you kneel before me, begging for mercy like dogs. Loud voices and the cheers of groomsmen erupted from the hallway. My good husband was about to make his drunken entrance. I took a deep breath, hid the voice recorder in my sleeve, and grabbed a pristine white bedsheet from the closet to make the bed. Then I sat on the edge of the mattress, a freezing smile curving my lips quietly, waiting for my prey. The bedroom door was shoved open. A chaotic mess of footsteps and the heavy stench of alcohol flooded the room. Chloe, Jacob's best man, Mike yelled. Jacob is absolutely over the moon today. He took so many shots for you. He's completely blacked out. We brought him back. Enjoy your wedding night. We'll leave you to take care of him." Sitting on the pristine white sheets, I instantly pasted on a look of worried, shy affection, rushing over to help. "Oh my goodness, how did he drink this much?" "Thank you guys so much. Let's get him on the bed." The groomsman carelessly tossed Jacob onto the mattress like a sack of potatoes. Jacob kept his eyes squeezed shut, his brows furrowed, mumbling gibberish as he rolled over and buried his face in the pillow. I politely walked the groomsman to the door. The moment the door clicked shut, the sweet smile vanished from my face, replaced by a wave of violent disgust. I walked slowly back to the bed, looking down at the man I had just married. He was wearing a custom, expensive, tailored suit. His tie was loose and crooked. In the past, seeing him like this, my heart would ache and I'd be rushing to wipe his face with a warm towel and make him hangover tea. But now, standing close to him beneath the stench of alcohol, I could clearly smell the cheap synthetic perfume Jessica had left all over him. My stomach churned, but I dug my fingernails into my palms to force myself to stay calm. Jacob wasn't blackout drunk. I knew his tolerance. When he entertained clients, he could down half a bottle of whiskey without breaking a sweat. A few glasses of champagne and beer tonight wouldn't knock him out like a dead pig. He was playing dead, keeping his promise to his mistress, not to touch me on our wedding night. What a devoted husband. What a faithful lover. I sneered. I deliberately walked to the nightstand, picked up a heavy glass tumbler, and simply let go. Crash! The glass shattered loudly on the hardwood floor. The man on the bed flinched noticeably. His breathing hitched for half a second. But he kept his eyes tightly shut, pretending he hadn't heard a thing, even forcing out a loud, rhythmic snore. The fake snoring was so ridiculous I almost laughed out loud. I didn't bother exposing his pathetic acting. If he wanted to play dead, let him. I didn't clean up the broken glass. I didn't change clothes. I just walked over to the armchair in the corner of the room, pulled my loungewear tight around myself, and sat down. In the dim light, I stared at the familiar stranger on the bed, with my eyes wide open for the entire night. Throughout the night, the past 3 years played like a movie in my head. From the day we met in the pouring rain when he held his only umbrella over my head while he got soaked to the bone, to him bringing me hot breakfast every single morning without fail, to the day he looked at me with red eyes saying he was too poor for me, but that if I married him, he would work his fingers to the bone to give me a good life. I was such a fool. I thought I had found the purest love in the world. I thought I was trading my genuine heart for his. My parents, worried I would suffer, didn't demand a prenup or any traditional dowry. Instead, they bought this luxury penthouse in full for us, gifted me over $1 million in cash, and bought me a luxury car. And my unconditional giving was met with his family's calculations and mockery. To them, I wasn't a living, breathing person. I was a walking ATM. A stumbling block they could murder whenever it suited them. Dawn slowly broke. The morning light filtered through the thick curtains. The man on the bed finally stirred. He exaggeratedly stretched his arms, rubbed his temples, and sat up, acting as if he had a splitting headache. When he saw me sitting fully dressed in the armchair with dark circles under my eyes, he froze. A flash of guilt crossed his face, but he quickly masked it. "Honey, why are you sitting there? Did you not sleep at all?" He threw off the covers and walked toward me, reaching out to hold my hand. Suppressing the bile in my throat, I smoothly sidestepped his touch, stood up and walked to the water dispenser. I poured a glass of warm water and handed it to him, forcing a tired but gentle smile. "You were completely wasted last night. You threw up everywhere," I lied. "I was worried you might choke in your sleep, so I stayed up watching you. Does your head still hurt? Drink some water." Jacob took the glass, looking incredibly moved, though a sliver of smug glee hid in his eyes. He was definitely laughing at me internally, laughing at what a gullible idiot I was. "Honey, I'm so sorry. Yesterday was our big day. I was just too happy, and the guys kept forcing drinks on me. I couldn't help it. I made you suffer. Tonight, I'll definitely make it up to you." Hearing his deep, soulful confession, I felt nothing but intense irony. Make it up to me, with what, his rotting blackened heart, or his pregnant high school sweetheart? "It's fine, we have a long life ahead of us," I said softly. "Go wash up. Mom probably made breakfast already." Jacob nodded and headed into the bathroom. As the water started running, the gentle facade on my face instantly shattered, my eyes turning as cold as glacial ice. A long life ahead. Yes, our days together were just getting started. The game had only just begun. After washing up, Jacob and I walked out of the master suite. The spacious dining room smelled like bacon and eggs. Martha was carrying a plate of greasy sausages from the kitchen. She was wearing a cheap, bright red blouse, her hair slicked back, her face plastered with a motherly, affectionate smile. "Oh, my sweet daughter-in-law is awake. You must be exhausted from yesterday," Martha beamed. Come, Mom made your favorite Southern-style breakfast. Come eat while it's hot." Looking at her face wrinkled like an old chrysanthemum, a chill ran down my spine. Who would have thought that behind this sweet mask hid the heart of a venomous spider eager to commit murder for money? "Thank you, Mom." "You woke up so early you must be tired," I said obediently, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Just then, the guest room door opened. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a woman in a loose maternity dress, her hair messy, slowly shuffling out. She didn't try to hide herself at all. Instead, she boldly walked straight to the dining table. It was Jessica. Looking closely, she wasn't particularly pretty. She had a wide face and slightly upturned eyes that gave off a restless, calculating vibe. Her belly was showing she looked at least 4 or 5 months pregnant. What stabbed at my eyes most was the cream-colored cashmere wrap she was wearing over her shoulders. It was a limited edition piece my dad had bought for me in Paris last month. I cherished it so much I rarely wore it, leaving it pristine in my closet. And here she was, brazenly wearing my clothes. Anger flared in my chest. I wanted to leap up and rip her face off, but I couldn't. I had to endure. I took a deep breath, putting on a look of total shock and confusion. I pointed at Jessica and asked Jacob, "Jacob, who is this?" Jacob's face twitched slightly when he saw Jessica wearing my wrap, but he recovered instantly, flashing a natural smile. "Oh, Chloe, I was just about to tell you. This is my distant cousin Jessica. The hospitals out in our rural town aren't great, and she hasn't been feeling well lately. She wanted to come to the city for a full checkup. Since it was our wedding yesterday, she came to celebrate, and it was too late for her to find a hotel, so I let her stay in the guest room." Martha immediately chimed in, enthusiastically, grabbing Jessica's hand. "Yes, Chloe, poor Jessica has had a hard life. Her parents passed away when she was little. I practically raised her. She's like a little sister to Jacob. She has no one else in the city. I figured since your penthouse is so massive, she could stay here for a few days for her doctor appointments. You don't mind, do you? Watching this mother-son duo perform, I wanted to hand them an Oscar. Distant cousin. Raised her since she was little. No one else. They spun these lies without missing a beat. If I hadn't been hiding under the bed last night, I probably would have felt deeply sympathetic and treated her like my own sister." I turned my gaze to Jessica. She was currently eyeing me with a mix of provocation and deep jealousy. When our eyes met, she immediately lowered her head, acting like a timid, pitiful victim. "Hello, Chloe," Jessica stammered weakly. "Am I bothering you guys? If it's inconvenient, I can move out and find a cheap motel today." Wow, the manipulation tactics were stronger than I thought. A few sentences and she had put me right on the grill. If I said it was inconvenient, I would look like a heartless snob kicking a sick, pregnant relative out onto the street the day after my wedding. If I agreed, I was inviting a wolf into my home. Since they wanted to act, I would act better. Let's see who breaks first. I immediately stood up, practically running over to grab Jessica's hand, my face radiating warmth and heartache. "Oh, Jessica, what are you talking about? Since you're Jacob's cousin, you're my sister. Those cheap motels are dirty and unsafe. You're pregnant and unwell. How could I let you suffer like that? You stay right here with us. Stay as long as you want. Please don't be a stranger." My response made Jacob and Martha visibly exhale in relief. They exchanged a covert glance, a glance filled with mockery and smugness at how easily they had fooled the dumb rich girl. "Oh my," Martha clapped her hands. "I always said our Chloe was the sweetest, most understanding girl in the world. Jessica, hurry up and thank your sister-in-law. Thank you, Chloe." "You're so nice," Jessica mumbled, her head still down. But I could clearly see the victorious sneer tugging at the corner of her mouth. I held her hand tightly, my eyes landing directly on the cream cashmere wrap on her shoulders. I deliberately raised my voice. "Wow, Jessica, this wrap looks gorgeous on you. It looks a bit familiar, though. The material is so soft it must be so comfortable to wear, right?" Jessica's face instantly stiffened. She subconsciously pulled at the edges of the wrap, shooting a panicked look at Jacob. Martha hurriedly jumped in to smooth things over her smile, looking highly forced. This. Last night, Mom saw Jessica shivering and I was afraid she'd catch a cold. I just grabbed something at random from your closet to throw over her. Chloe, you have so many clothes you won't miss this one piece, right? Jessica is a country girl, she's never seen anything this nice. Look how much she loves it, why don't you just let her keep it? Unbelievable. She stole my belongings, and then self-righteously demanded I give it to her. I sneered inwardly, but on the outside, I put on a look of dawning realization and waved my hand magnanimously. Mom, what are you saying? It's just a piece of clothing. If Jessica likes it, she can have it. I dragged out my words, watching Jessica's face pale slightly with nerves, a twisted sense of satisfaction rising in my chest. But Jessica, this wrap needs the right accessories. This kind of expensive cashmere needs a good designer bag to really show off the elegance. Actually, I just remembered I have a limited edition pink Chanel bag in my closet. It was too youthful for me, so I never use it. I think it would look perfect on you. Before they could even react, I turned around and walked into the master bedroom. When I emerged, holding the pink limited edition Chanel bag worth tens of thousands of dollars and handed it to Jessica, her eyes practically popped out of her skull. The raw, unfiltered greed spilled out of her face. This was the exact bag she had demanded over the phone last night. Is this really for me? Chloe, this is too expensive, she said, though her hands had already seized the bag's strap in a death grip. Terrified. I would take it back. Take it, I smiled warmly. We're family. Just consider it my welcome gift. Whatever you need, just ask me. Jacob stood by, watching. Although a flash of pain crossed his eyes since the bag was bought with my money, which he already considered his own property, he went along with it to keep Jessica happy. Chloe said you can have it, so keep it. Thank her, Jessica. This breakfast was a masterpiece of hidden agendas. Martha and Jacob kept serving me food, praising my generosity, while Jessica kept her head down, clutching her pink Chanel bag. Eating ravenously, occasionally shooting me. Looks filled with dark calculation. And I calmly sipped my coffee, mentally mapping out every single step of my master plan. After breakfast, I stood up and grabbed my coat. Jacob, Mom, I need to head to the office. Even though we just got married, there's a massive project at the company I need to oversee personally. I won't be back for lunch. You guys keep Jessica company. According to tradition, a bride should relax at home the day after the wedding. But Jacob was thrilled I was leaving, giving their little family of 3 time to be alone. Work is important, honey. Drive safe. Mom and I will take care of Jessica, don't worry, Jacob said. Martha gave me a fake saccharine goodbye at the door. Don't work too hard, Chloe. A woman should eventually focus on her family. Come home early, Mom will make you a nice roast for dinner. I smiled, nodded, and stepped into the private elevator. The moment the doors slid shut, the smile retreated from my face like the tide. My eyes sharpened into blades. Focus on her family. You just want me to die in that house, don't you? I didn't go to my dad's corporate headquarters. Instead, I drove straight to the largest electronics and security district in the city. In a specialized, discreet surveillance shop, I paid top dollar for 5 of the most advanced micro-hidden cameras and listening devices on the market. They were the size of buttons, ran on long-lasting internal batteries, and had independent cellular SIM cards. They didn't need my home's Wi-Fi. They would stream high-definition video and audio directly to a burner phone I had just bought. After buying the gear, I drove immediately to my bank in the financial district. Before the wedding, to show Jacob my absolute trust, I had opened a joint checking account under my name and deposited $50,000 as our household emergency fund. The PIN was his birthday. I had never checked the balance because I never thought I needed to guard against him. Now, everything was different. Sitting in the bank's VIP lounge, I handed my ID to my wealth manager. Print out the transaction history for this account for the past 6 months. Every detail. Minutes later, several pages of dense transaction logs were placed in front of me. I scanned them line by line, the fire in my chest growing hotter with every word. For the past 6 months, the money had been flowing out like a river. At first, it was a few $100s here and there. The memos said sending to relatives in hometown, or medical bills for a sick aunt. Then the numbers got bigger, 5,000, 10,000. And last month, right when we were busiest planning the wedding, there was a massive transfer of $50,000. The recipient's name was printed in stark black ink, stinging like a slap to the face, Jessica Miller. He was taking my money to fund his mistress and his unborn child. I gripped the flimsy sheets of paper so hard my knuckles turned white. My eyes were bloodshot with rage, but I didn't shed a single tear. My heart had already been forged into steel by the truth I heard last night. I folded the statements and placed them carefully in my purse. This wasn't just proof of Jacob hiding assets. This was the death warrant I would use to send their whole family to hell. Leaving the bank, I dialed a number. It rang for a long time before a low, gravelly voice answered. "Hello, Chloe," Charlie said. "You just got married yesterday. Shouldn't you be on a honeymoon? Why are you calling this old man Old Charlie? Was an old friend of my dad's from his early business days. After some rough patches, he retired from corporate life and opened a private investigation firm specializing in corporate espionage and high-stakes divorce cases. He was incredibly well-connected, ruthless, and most importantly, utterly reliable. "Uncle Charlie, I'm in trouble," I said. "I need you to run a background check. I want every bank account, every phone record, and every dark secret of this woman named Jessica Miller from Jacob's hometown. I want you to turn their lives upside down." Charlie went silent for a few seconds. His tone instantly became dead serious. "Chloe, are you looking into Jacob?" "Yes. Jacob. Don't ask why, Uncle Charlie. I'm begging you. And my parents cannot know about this yet. The shock would break them. Money is not an object. I just need the most detailed, airtight evidence as fast as humanly possible." Charlie sighed heavily. "All right, kiddo. Uncle Charlie understands. Send me everything you have. Within 3 days, I'll have a file telling you what color underwear he's wearing." I hung up and took a deep breath of the freezing city air, feeling the heavy knot in my chest loosen just a fraction. Now, the final step. I had to go back to that so-called home and install the cameras. I checked my Cartier watch. 2:00 p.m. Knowing Martha, she took a nap every day at this time like clockwork. Jacob was faking a hangover, so he was probably asleep too. As for Jessica, pregnant women are always tired. This was the perfect window. I parked my car a block away from the building, put on a baseball cap and a medical mask, and slipped back into my penthouse like a ghost. I was dead silent. The foyer was still. The living room curtains were half drawn, casting the space in shadows. I took off my shoes, walking only in my socks, holding my breath. From the direction of the master and guest bedrooms, I could hear faint, rhythmic snoring. They were all asleep. I pulled the micro cameras from my bag and moved swiftly. First, I attached one to the underside of a large, decorative potted plant above the living room TV. This angle covered the entire living and dining area with 0 blind spots. Second, I slipped one into the gap of the dining room chandelier base, specifically to monitor their conversations at the table. The third and most dangerous one had to go in the guest room. That was the command center for Jessica and Martha's plotting. I tiptoed to the guest room door. It wasn't fully closed. It was cracked open just an inch. Through the gap, I saw Jessica sprawled on the bed, dead asleep, drool pooling at the corner of her mouth. She was clutching that pink Chanel bag tightly to her chest like it was her baby. I gently pushed the door open. Every step felt like walking on knives. My heart hammered against my ribs, my palms slick with cold sweat. If she woke up now, everything would be ruined. I zeroed in on the AC vent directly above the bed. Stepping onto a nearby chair, I shoved the button-sized camera behind the vent's louvers, adjusting the angle to ensure a perfect view of the bed. Just as I was about to step down, Jessica shifted on the bed. She mumbled something in her sleep. My heart leaped into my throat. I froze on the chair, terrified to breathe. "Jacob, my bag," she muttered. She was just sleep-talking. I exhaled a long, shaky breath. My shirt was soaked with cold sweat. I quickly climbed down, slipped out of the room like a shadow, and silently clicked the door shut. I installed the final 2 cameras in discrete corners of the hallway and the balcony. Once everything was set, I immediately left the building, got back into my car, and pulled out my burner phone. I opened the app. 5 crystal-clear, high-definition video feeds popped up on the screen. The living room, the dining table, the sleeping Jessica, everything was in plain sight. I put in my earpiece and could even hear the faint sound of her breathing. It was done. From this moment on, this house was no longer their safe haven. It was a glass cage. Every move they made, every word they whispered would become the hard evidence I would use to send them to prison. I waited in my car until 5:00 p.m., figuring they would be waking up soon. I drove around the block, grabbed some expensive pastries from a bakery, and walked through my front door acting like I had just gotten off a long day at the office. As soon as I walked in, the rich smell of roast beef hit me. Martha, wearing an apron, was walking out of the kitchen with a serving dish. When she saw me, her face lit up in an exaggeratedly joyful smile. "Oh, Chloe's home. Go wash your hands, sweetie. Mom has been slow roasting this beef all afternoon. The whole house smells amazing. We were just waiting for you," Jacob walked out of the master bedroom, naturally taking my coat and the pastries, planting a fake, sickening kiss on my cheek. "Rough first day back at the office, honey. You look exhausted." Sitting on the couch, Jessica watched Jacob kiss me. A flash of pure, venomous hatred crossed her eyes, but she quickly looked down to hide it. Looking at this picture-perfect happy family of three, if I didn't have my phone constantly streaming their true faces, I might have actually fallen for the illusion. I suppressed my nausea, changed into my slippers, and smiled as I walked to the dining table. "I'm not tired," I said sweetly. "How could I be tired when I have my wonderful family waiting for me at home?" Dinner was a masterclass in hidden agendas. Martha and Jacob constantly served me food, praising my work ethic and generosity. Jessica hugged her pink Chanel bag and ate silently, looking up occasionally with eyes full of calculation. And I ate the roast beef, while mentally refining the next steps of my plan. After dinner, I used exhaustion as an excuse to excuse myself to the master bedroom early. Jacob stayed in the living room to watch TV with Martha. I locked my door, turned on the shower to create background noise, and pulled out my burner phone. I put in my earbuds and stared intently at the screen. The main event was finally about to begin. On the screen, as soon as Martha saw my door close, her sweet grandmotherly smile vanished. She shot a cautious look at my bedroom door, then lowered her voice and leaned toward Jacob. "Jacob, did you see how nice she was to Jessica today? She even gave her a bag worth thousands." "I don't think she suspects a damn thing." Jacob leaned back on the couch, tossing the TV remote, and sneered. "Mom, I told you. She's a spoiled, sheltered idiot. I whisper a few sweet nothings in her ear and she can't even tell left from right. Don't worry, she's wrapped around my finger." Jessica, who had been quiet, shimmied closer, rubbing her belly. Her voice was laced with undisguised impatience. "Jacob, if she's so easy to fool, when are you going to bring up the house? My belly is getting bigger by the day. I refuse to let my son be born while this place is still in that bitch's name." Jacob's eyes flickered. A sinister, calculating smirk spread across his face. "Jessica, calm down. We have to do this step by step. Tomorrow is the traditional post-wedding Sunday dinner at her parents' estate. I'm going with her. When we get back, I'm going to put on a show. A pity play. I'll tell her that her rich friends and family look down on me, that I feel like a freeloader, and that my pride is broken. I'll use that to beg her to put my name on the deed so I can feel like a real man. Once my name is on that deed, it becomes marital property." Martha slapped her thigh in excitement. "Yes, brilliant, Jacob, you have to act your heart out. Cry if you have to. That girl is soft-hearted, she'll definitely cave. Once your name is on it, we'll force her to sell it, take the cash, and go buy ourselves a mansion out in the suburbs. Let her rot in the streets. Mom selling the house comes later," Jacob said. "This penthouse is prime real estate. Once my name is on it, I'll figure out a way to drain her bank accounts and sell her cars. Once we squeeze every drop of oil out of her." Jacob made a slow, deliberate slicing motion across his own throat. The brutal, bloodthirsty glint in his eyes was chilling. Jessica saw the gesture. Instead of being afraid, her face flushed with sick excitement. "You're amazing, Jacob. I can't wait to be the lady of this penthouse. When the time comes, I'm throwing out every single piece of her clothing and filling that closet with mine." In my locked bedroom, watching these three demons plot their blood-soaked scheme, my blood felt like it was literally boiling. A pity play. Put his name on the deed. Squeeze her dry. Dream on. I turned off the phone screen and let the freezing shower water hit me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Jacob, you want to put on a show? Fine. Tomorrow at my parents' house, I'll build you the most magnificent stage in the world. I'll let you act your heart out. But remember, I am the director of this play. You want my assets, then I will lay out an inescapable interconnected trap. I'll make you willingly walk right into it, and when it snaps shut, there won't even be bone dust left of you." The first rays of morning light pierced through the heavy curtains like a sharp knife slicing into the dim bedroom. I opened my eyes, staring at the crystal chandelier above. After a brief moment of blankness, the horrifying conversations I monitored last night rushed back into my mind like a tidal wave. Pity play. Name on the deed. Squeeze her dry. These venomous words slithered through my organs like cold snakes, biting until I bled internally. I turned my head to look at Jacob sleeping beside me. He was breathing softly, looking so peaceful, so honest. Who could have known the soul of a beast worse than a stray dog hid beneath that human skin? I took a deep breath, forcing the murderous rage back down into my chest. The game had just begun. I couldn't show any flaws now. I threw off the covers, deliberately making a lot of noise. "Honey, wake up, don't sleep in. Today's the big post-wedding family brunch at my parents' house. We need to get ready." Jacob startled awake, rubbed his sleepy eyes. Seeing me, he instantly swapped to his gentle, caring husband persona. He reached out to hug me. Without breaking my expression, I sidestepped his touch, pretending I was rushing to find my slippers, perfectly dodging his embrace. "Why are you up so early, honey?" Jacob asked. "You worked all day yesterday. Sleep a little more. Mom already prepared the gifts we're taking to your parents." "You don't need to worry about a thing." I sneered inwardly. Your mom prepared the gifts, that cheapskate who would split a penny in half before spending it. What kind of presentable gifts could she possibly have prepared? I didn't expose him. I just smiled and walked into the bathroom to wash up. When I emerged, breakfast was laid out. Martha was carrying a plate of greasy hash browns from the kitchen. The woman Jessica was sitting brazenly in my usual seat at the head of the table wearing my favorite fluffy slippers. She sipped a glass of orange juice while casting critical, greedy looks at the expensive decor around the room. Seeing me, Martha piled on the fake smiles. "Oh, Chloe's up, come eat." Mom ran downstairs to the diner to get you fresh hash browns and bacon, still piping hot. "Thank you, Mom." "You really work too hard," I smiled, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at the coffee table in the living room. Sitting there were a few sad, cheap plastic grocery bags. Inside were 2 bottles of generic bottom-shelf whiskey, a few packs of cheap cigarettes, and some tacky discount store vitamin supplements. This was what Jacob claimed was prepared. Disgust washed over me, but I didn't lash out. I took a slow sip of my coffee, then turned to Jacob. "Honey, are those the gifts Mom prepared for my parents?" Jacob rubbed his hands together awkwardly, his eyes darting away. Yeah. Mom said older folks appreciate practical things. You know, honey, since I gave you my paycheck to manage, I don't have much spare cash. These aren't expensive, but they represent Mom's sincerity. Your parents won't mind, right?" What a beautiful, hypocritical speech. He had indeed given me his debit card, which only ever had his pathetic $3,000 base salary on it, and he constantly manufactured excuses to take double that amount back from me every month. He used my money to fund his mistress, but refused to spend a dime on decent gifts for my parents. Jessica, who had been quiet, chimed in with her passive-aggressive snark. "Chloe, Jacob is under so much pressure. You city folks care too much about showing off. Taking all these expensive gifts to a simple family dinner. We country folks value the thought behind the gift. Besides, your parents are loaded. Do they really care about a few items? You're so understanding, Chloe. Surely you wouldn't blame Jacob for this, right? The audacity. A mistress living in my house, eating my food, trying to lecture me on morality." I looked at Jessica's slightly bloated, pregnant face, fighting the intense urge to throw my scalding coffee right at her. Instead, I laughed. "Cousin Jessica is absolutely right," I said brightly. "Family shouldn't care about these superficial things. But my dad is a businessman. He cares about face. If his son-in-law walks into his estate with bottom-shelf liquor, I'm worried his rich country club friends next door might see it and laugh at Jacob. Jacob is a proud man. I can't let him suffer that humiliation, can I?" I stood up, walked to the glass display cabinet in the living room, and opened it. Actually, a client gifted me 2 bottles of 50-year Macallan Scotch recently, along with a box of imported beluga caviar and Cuban cigars. My parents usually don't buy things this extravagant for themselves. Let's take these today under Jacob's name. It'll make him look fantastic. When I pulled out the insanely rare bottles of Macallan and the luxurious velvet boxes of caviar and cigars, placing them on the coffee table, I clearly heard Martha gasp. I saw Jessica's eyes go wide, bulging with greed and envy. Martha's eyes were glued to the Macallan. She looked like she wanted to gouge her eyes out and paste them onto the bottles. "Oh, my dear Lord," she stammered. "How? How much does liquor like this cost?" "The box looks like it's made of solid gold." "Chloe, honey, isn't it a waste to just give this to your parents to drink? Why don't you leave this here? Mom can take it back to the store, get a refund, and we can put that money in savings for you two to build a life." As she spoke, her rough hands unconsciously reached out, trying to pull the scotch toward her chest. I wasn't going to let her have her way. I smoothly grabbed the bottles first, placing them into high-end gift bags, giving her a perfectly calibrated look of mild reproach. "Mom, what are you saying? This scotch is priceless. You can't just return it. Besides, this is Jacob's way of honoring his father-in-law. It represents his deep respect." "Right, Jacob." I kicked the ball to Jacob. Watching the bottles vanish into the bag, Jacob's Adam's apple bobbed. He was clearly in physical pain over losing such expensive items. But to pave the way for his flawless pity play later today, he had to force a smile that looked uglier than a grimace. Yeah, Mom, Chloe's right. I should honor her parents. I'll carry these. We can't let Chloe lose face in front of her family. Jessica was grinding her teeth so hard her jaw trembled. She practically crushed the bacon in her hand. Watching those luxurious gifts being loaded into my car keys, the venom in her eyes was overflowing. I reveled in it. This was just the appetizer. If this hurt them, the main course was going to kill them. After breakfast, Jacob and I carried the bags downstairs and got into the Mercedes my dad bought me. Jacob confidently slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The car glided out of the parking garage, heading toward my parents' massive estate in the upscale suburbs. The atmosphere in the car was heavy. Jacob wasn't his usual talkative self, cracking jokes to make me laugh. Instead, his brow was deeply furrowed. He sighed heavily every few minutes, looking like a man burdened by the immense weight of the world. I sneered internally. It's starting. The Oscar-winning actor is finally beginning his performance. I leaned back in the passenger seat, turning to him with a look of deep concern. Honey, what's wrong? You've looked so heavy-hearted all morning. Is something going wrong at work, or did you just not sleep well? This was exactly the cue Jacob was waiting for. He let out another long, shuddering sigh. His hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He flawlessly portrayed a pitiful man crushed by the harsh realities of life. Chloe, I'm in so much pain inside. His voice was hoarse, even carrying a subtle, almost undetectable sob. If I hadn't watched the surveillance footage last night and heard him plotting this exact performance with Martha, I might have actually been fooled by his pathetic display and immediately hugged him in comfort. But looking at his face now, I just found it incredibly comical and disgusting. I continued to play the considerate, naive, sweet wife. What is it? We're husband and wife. Is there something you can't tell me? Keeping it bottled up makes my heart ache. Jacob suddenly slammed on the brakes, stopping the car at a red light. He turned to me. His eyes were actually red, shimmering with the beginnings of tears. Chloe, I feel like I don't deserve you. Your family is so wealthy. You live in mansions, you drive luxury cars. And me? I'm just a poor country boy, with no background, no connections. At the office, my colleagues call me Jacob to my face, but behind my back, they laugh at me. They call me a gold-digging freeloader. They say I don't even own the roof over my head. They say I'm a parasite who could be kicked out onto the street at any moment. Jacob buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking slightly, as if he had suffered the greatest injustice in the world. Chloe, I'm a man. Having my dignity trampled on by everyone. It hurts so much. I don't even want to go to corporate dinners anymore. I can't stand their mocking eyes. Sometimes I really think I aimed too high. Maybe I'm holding you back. Bravo. The monologue was absolutely brilliant. Every word dripped with blood and tears. He painted himself as a tragic hero, enduring humiliation for love oppressed by societal prejudice. If it were the old Chloe, she would have already been crying her eyes out, voluntarily begging to put his name on the deed just to prove her love. Too bad the current Chloe's heart was a barren wasteland of freezing mockery. I reached out and gently patted his shoulder, my voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. Honey, don't listen to those people. They're just jealous. Haters are going to hate. I know exactly who you are. You're hardworking, ambitious, and responsible. To me, you are the best man in the world. Houses, cars, they're just material things. As long as we truly love each other, what does it matter whose name is on a piece of paper? Jacob's body went stiff. He clearly hadn't expected me to use this spiritual victory approach to comfort him, instead of instantly offering to change the deed. But he was a veteran actor. He immediately adjusted his strategy. He dropped his hands, looking at me with red eyes filled with deep, inescapable love and torment. Chloe, I know you don't care about those things. But I care. I want to give you a better life. I want to prove to everyone that I, Jacob, am not a useless gold digger. I want to rely on my own hard work to put down real roots in this city, to have a home that truly belongs to both of us instead of constantly living under someone else's roof. Living under someone else's roof. You moved your greedy mother and your pregnant mistress into my fully paid-off multi-million-dollar penthouse. Living a life of luxury funded entirely by me, and you call that living under someone else's roof. My heart was bleeding with rage, but my face showed nothing but deep emotion. Honey, I understand your heart. Don't worry, as long as we work hard together, everything will get better. We're almost at my parents' house. Please fix your expression. Don't let them see you looking so upset or they'll worry. Seeing that I still wasn't taking the bait on the house, a flash of frustration and anxiety crossed Jacob's eyes. But he knew pushing too hard would backfire. He suppressed his urgency and nodded. Okay. I know. Don't worry, Chloe. I'll put on a brave face for your parents. I won't embarrass you. The car soon entered the gates of the gated community and pulled up to the circular driveway of my parents' sprawling estate. My parents were already waiting by the door. Seeing us get out, my mom walked up with a beaming smile, grabbing my hands. Oh, my darling girl is back. Let Mom look at you. Have you lost weight? Is Jacob treating you right? My dad walked up and slapped Jacob on the back, laughing heartily. Jacob. We're all one family now. Chloe was a bit spoiled growing up. She can be stubborn. You have to be patient with her, all right, Jacob. Instantly swapped to his humble, honest country boy smile. He respectfully handed over the incredibly expensive gifts. Dad, Mom, please don't worry. Chloe is my whole life. I would rather suffer 1,000 wrongs myself than let her suffer even a little bit. These are some rare scotch and cigars I picked out for you two. Wishing you the best of health. Seeing the extremely generous gifts, my parents' smiles grew even brighter. They didn't care about the price tag. They cared that Jacob was showing them respect and valuing their daughter. Oh, you kids, you're coming home. You don't need to spend all this money, my mom chided gently. As long as you two are happy, that's all we care about. Come inside. I had the chef. Prepare your favorite Maine lobster and prime rib. Stepping into the grandiose estate, the massive sunlit living room, the expensive mahogany furniture, the museum-quality art on the walls, everything screamed. Immense generational wealth. I noticed Jacob's eyes scanning the luxurious decor. The greed and intense jealousy burning deep in his pupils were practically igniting. He was definitely fantasizing about the day he could claim all of this as his own. Lunch was an extravagant feast. My parents treated Jacob like their own son, constantly passing him food and asking about his career. After a few glasses of wine, Jacob's face flushed red. I knew he had laid the groundwork for long enough. The main event was about to begin. Suddenly, Jacob put down his fork. He picked up his wine glass, tilted his head back, and downed the large glass of red wine in one gulp. Bang! He slammed the glass down on the table, the sharp noise startling my parents. Jacob, what is it? My dad asked, frowning. Did the wine go down the wrong pipe? Jacob's eyes went instantly red. Huge, heavy tears began to fall down his cheeks on command. He abruptly stood up, pushed his chair back, and thud, he dropped straight to his knees right in front of my parents. Even I was stunned by his commitment. To kneel in front of his in-laws like this in an American household was highly unusual and intensely dramatic. To get his hands on my money, this man was willing to throw away every last ounce of his pride and dignity. Dad, Mom, I have failed you, Jacob wept. And I have failed Chloe. My mom, terrified, jumped up and tried to pull him up. Jacob, what on earth are you doing? Get up. If you have something to say, stand up and say it. Jacob refused to budge, kneeling on the floor, crying a river of snot and tears. It was a picture of absolute devastating agony. Mom, please don't pull me up. Let me say this on my knees, or I'll never forgive myself. Chloe marrying me was a step down for her. She has suffered an immense injustice. Not only could I not afford to buy her a mansion, but the penthouse we live in was entirely paid for by you two. At the office, people point at my spine and call me a kept man. They say I'm a gold digger plotting to steal your family's fortune. My dad's face darkened instantly. Though a ruthless corporate titan, my dad was old school and hated malicious gossip. Who dares to spread such garbage? We let our daughter marry you because we valued your character. What does it have to do with them? Jacob cried even harder. Dad, rumors can kill a man. I work hard, I don't mind the grind. But I am a man. I cannot endure people looking at me with such contempt. I can't stand them saying Chloe is blind for marrying a useless freeloader. Dad, Mom, I am a man with a backbone. I want my pride. I want to give Chloe a real home. Jacob suddenly lifted his head, his tear-streaked face looking at my parents with absolute sincerity. The dagger was finally unsheathed. Dad, Mom, I am begging you for one thing. Please let me put my name on the deed to the penthouse. I swear to God, I am not trying to steal the house. I will write you a legally binding IOU. I will value the house at current market value, and I will sign a promissory note for half of it. Every time I get my paycheck, I will pay you back. Even if I have to pay it back for the rest of my life, I want to formally buy half the rights to that house. I'm just begging you to give me this last shred of dignity as a man, so I can hold my head high and tell my colleagues that it is my home too. using a tactical retreat to launch an offensive, the absolute pinnacle of the pity play. He didn't just cry about his pride. He threw out the highly deceptive bait of the IOU. To my parents, a son-in-law willing to take on massive debt just to prove his worth and protect his pride was a man of supreme responsibility and character. As for the IOU itself, it was just a piece of paper. Since we were married, my parents would never actually force him to pay it back. His calculations were so loud, they could be heard from outer space. Sure enough, hearing this, my parents weren't suspicious at all. They were deeply moved. My mom's eyes watered as she forcefully pulled Jacob up from the floor. "Oh, you good boy. Get up." "We understand your heart," my mom sniffled. "Don't you listen to those vicious people. Add your name to the deed, we agree. Don't talk nonsense about IOUs. That house was meant for you two to build a life together. If putting your name on it gives you peace of mind and shuts those people up, then tomorrow Chloe will take you to the city clerk's office and we'll get it done." Hearing my mom agree so easily, a burst of absolute ecstatic joy exploded deep in Jacob's eyes. Though he tried to suppress it, I caught the fleeting victorious smirk on his lips. He was definitely screaming internally. I did it. Half of a $10 million penthouse is finally mine. Jessica, our high life starts now. But he was celebrating too early. He thought he was a master hunter, utterly unaware that he had just stepped into a death trap I had meticulously built for him. I didn't blow up. I didn't expose him. I took a deep breath, stood up, walked over to Jacob, and gently hooked my arm through his. I gave him the most radiant, admiring smile I could muster. "Honey, what you just said moved me so much. I always thought you were a bit dense, but I didn't realize you were silently carrying so much pressure for our future." "Dad, Mom, since Jacob has so much ambition, I completely agree with putting his name on the deed." Jacob whipped his head around to look at me, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. He obviously didn't expect me to agree this quickly. It was almost too smooth. "Chloe, you really agree?" he stammered. I looked him dead in the eye, speaking slowly. "Of course I agree. You are my husband. We are one entity. But," I dragged out the word, shifting the tone entirely. "Honey, just like you said, rumors are vicious. If you just sign an IOU, no real money changes hands. Your colleagues are snobs. They'll just say, the IOU is a worthless piece of paper, and that you're just pulling a scam to get the house for free. Your pride won't be restored. You'll be mocked even worse." Jacob's face paled slightly. He asked urgently, Then what do you mean, Chloe?" I turned to my dad sitting at the head of the table and shot him a highly secretive, meaningful look. My dad had survived decades in the cutthroat corporate world. He had seen it all. Even though he didn't know exactly what was going on between Jacob and me, that single look told him I had an agenda. He sat still as a mountain, waiting to see my play. I looked back at Jacob and tossed out the bait I had prepared, a bait so sweet, it would drag him to the bottom of the ocean. "Honey, the only way to truly shut those people up is if you pull out real cold hard cash and buy half the equity in the house. Only then can you truly stand tall and proud." Jacob's face turned ugly. He stuttered. But Chloe, you know my salary. Half the equity in that penthouse is at least $5 million. I could sell my own organs and I wouldn't have that kind of money." I laughed out loud, patting his hand affectionately. My voice dripped with temptation. "Oh, honey, don't worry. I'd never force you to sell your organs. Actually, there's a secret I haven't told you. My dad's firm has a highly classified internal corporate investment project right now. It's a joint venture tied to a massive government infrastructure contract. The principal is 100% guaranteed, and the returns are staggering. The cycle is only 30 days, and the profit margin is a guaranteed 300%. 300%. Jacob's eyes bulged like saucers. His breathing turned ragged. A 300% return in 30 days. What did that mean? It meant if he threw in $1 million, he'd get back $3 million in a month. I watched the absolute bottomless greed warp his features and smiled coldly, adding fuel to the fire. Yes, exactly 300%. Because the returns are so astronomical, the slots are incredibly limited. My dad was going to save an internal slot for me so I could make some pocket money. But seeing how ambitious you are today, and how desperately you want to prove yourself, I think you deserve this slot more than anyone. I turned to my dad and pouted like a spoiled daughter. "Dad, Jacob is your son-in-law. He's in trouble. You can't just sit there and do nothing. Please let Jacob use the internal investment slot. Just this once." My dad, though, still piecing together my strategy, was a master at playing along. He instantly adopted a severe, highly secretive expression, lowering his voice to a grave register. "Chloe, this is absurd. That project is top secret level at the firm. How can you just blab about it? That slot was fought over by the board of directors. Do you know how much political capital I spent to secure one for you, and you just want to hand it away?" My dad's Oscar-worthy acting completely sold Jacob. Seeing my dad's severe reaction, Jacob became entirely convinced this high-yield project was real. The demonic flames of greed in his heart were fully ignited, burning away whatever tiny shred of rationality he had left. Jacob spun around and practically threw himself at my dad. His eyes burned with the manic fervor of a degenerate gambler. "Dad, I beg you, give me a chance. I swear to God, if you let me into this project the second I get the payout, I will use it to buy the house's equity. I will not take a single cent of Chloe's money unfairly. I want to prove to everyone that I can give Chloe a good life." My dad put on a deeply conflicted expression, letting out a long sigh. Sigh. "Fine. Since you have such drive and Chloe is so determined to protect you, I will make an exception. But Jacob, the threshold for this project is not low. The minimum buy-in is $1 million in cash. Can you come up with that $1 million? Jacob's face drained of color. Where would he get $1 million? He had siphoned $50,000 to Jessica. Maybe they had a little more saved. But facing the irresistible lure of a 300% return and the guarantee of legally owning half of a $10 million penthouse in 30 days, how could he back down? Once human greed is magnified, it becomes a black hole that swallows all logic and common sense. Jacob gritted his teeth, a flash of insane determination in his eyes. "Dad, don't worry. I will find a way to get the $1 million. Even if I have to borrow it, I will get it." "Honey, don't force yourself," I said softly. "If it's too hard, maybe you can borrow some from a hard money lender just to bridge the gap. It's only a month until the payout. The profits will easily cover the principal and any crazy interest. Once you make the money, we put your name on the deed, and we'll see whoever dares to look down on you again." I deliberately fed him the idea of a hard money loan, a loan shark. I knew that in his current state of mania, he would jump into that fire pit without a second thought. Jacob nodded frantically, like he had just been handed a lifeline. Yes, Chloe, you're right. It's only a month. It'll fly by. Dad, keep the slot open for me. Give me 3 days. I swear I will wire the money to the corporate account." Watching him act so eager to march to his own execution, my smile grew even more radiant. "Okay, honey. I knew you were capable." But I pivoted sharply, reaching into my designer tote bag, pulling out a thick, pre-prepared legal document, and placed it gently on the dining table. "Honey, my dad's corporate compliance department is incredibly strict. Since you're participating in a highly classified internal project per corporate rules, they have to do a background check to ensure your personal assets and liabilities are clearly separated. So, the legal department requires us to sign a post-nuptial agreement for financial independence. It's just a formality." Jacob's eyes locked onto the document, a flicker of suspicion crossing his face. "A post-nuptial agreement. What does that mean?" I explained patiently. "It's just paperwork. It states that any debt you incur during our marriage, like the money you're about to borrow for the investment, is your sole personal debt and has nothing to do with me. Likewise, if either party commits a severe fault during the marriage, like cheating or domestic violence, the at-fault party leaves the marriage with absolutely nothing. 0 assets. Honey, you love me so much you'd never cheat on me, right? So this agreement is just a signature and a rubber stamp to you. This agreement was drawn up overnight by Uncle Arthur, my dad's ruthless chief counsel, whom I had Charlie contact. The clauses were ironclad and draconian. Once he signed it, the second I nailed him with proof of his cheating and asset transfer, he would not only walk away penniless, but he would also be solely responsible for the massive, ruinous debt he was about to take on. He would be cast into the deepest pit of hell." Jacob hesitated. He had a guilty conscience after all. His pregnant mistress was living in our guest room. But the demon of greed was screaming in his ear. On one hand, the vague, abstract risk of getting caught cheating. On the other, millions of dollars in instant profit and the deed to a multi-million-dollar mansion. In his arrogant mind, he and Jessica's scheme was flawless. He believed his idiot wife would never find out. Jacob weighed the options for merely a few seconds before making his choice. He grabbed the expensive pen off the table. "Chloe, how could you say that? I swear to God I would never betray you." "I'll sign it. I'll sign it right now." As long as I can make this money for our future, I'll do anything. He didn't even bother to read the fine print. He greedily flipped through the pages, signing his name on every single line and pressing his thumbprint onto the ink pad. Looking at the signed agreement, my heart finally settled. The trap was set. The massive steel net had dropped over his head, and there was absolutely no chance of escape. That afternoon, driving back from my parents' estate, Jacob was in a state of sheer euphoria. The entire ride he babbled endlessly, painting a glorious picture of how in 1 month we'd be multi-millionaires, and he would crush all the colleagues who looked down on him under his boot. I smiled and agreed with him, playing the perfect supportive audience. Once we got home, I claimed I was exhausted and retreated to the master bedroom. Jacob couldn't wait. He immediately grabbed Martha and Jessica and dragged them into the guest room. I locked my door, put in my earbuds, and pulled up the hidden camera app. On the screen, the guest room door was shut tight. Jacob paced the room like a madman, waving his arms, recounting his heroic triumph at my parents' house to Martha and Jessica. "Mom, Jessica. It worked. We're going to be rich." Martha slapped her thigh frantically. "You stupid boy, what happened? Speak clearly. Is your name on the deed?" Jacob embellished the details of the 300% return internal corporate project, spit flying from his mouth, acting as if the $3 million was already sitting in his bank account, adding, "My name is nothing. If we can scrounge up this $1 million and invest it next month, we get $3 million. I'll take the cash, slap it directly on that old bastard's face, and buy half the house outright. We'll have cash and the real estate. Chloe will be completely under our control." Martha's eyes gleamed, but then she frowned. But Jacob, $1 million. That's not a small number. You know we're broke. Even if we sold our old house back in the country, we wouldn't even get 50 grand for it. Where are we going to get that kind of money?" Jessica couldn't sit still either. She rubbed her belly, her eyes flashing with a manic, calculating light. "Jacob, what about the $50,000 you transferred to me over the last few months? I haven't touched it. I'll give it all back to you for the investment." Jacob grabbed Jessica and planted a hard kiss on her lips. "That's my girl. So we have 50 grand. We still need 950,000. Martha gritted her teeth as if making a massive sacrifice. "Jacob, you gotta risk it for the biscuit. Mom is going back to our hometown tomorrow. I'll hit up Uncle Bob, Aunt Sue, Cousin Billy, everyone. I'll tell them you're buying a mansion in the city and need a bridge loan. I'll offer them crazy high interest. I refuse to believe I can't squeeze some cash out of them." Jacob smacked his leg. "That won't be enough, Mom. Those country bumpkins don't have real money. Chloe reminded me today. Hard money lenders, loan sharks, I'll go borrow from the underground guys. As long as we survive this 1 month, the 300% return will easily pay off any crazy interest rates they charge. Once we get the payout, we'll buy an actual mansion in the suburbs and let that idiot Chloe rot in this apartment by herself." On the monitor, the three demons, completely blinded by greed, sat in a circle ecstatically planning how to scam their relatives, how to borrow from the mob, and how to use their imaginary $3 million to steal my life. They laughed so loudly, so arrogantly. In the master bedroom, watching this absurd, horrific comedy, I couldn't help but laugh too. Borrow. Borrow like maniacs. The more you borrow, the harder you'll fall. The higher you climb, the sweeter the sound when you shatter into a million pieces. Old Charlie's private investigation firm was located in a rundown office building on the outskirts of the city. From the outside, it looked like a failing shell company. But push past the heavy steel door, and it was a different world. Walls of advanced servers and mountains of filing cabinets proved just how terrifying this unassuming middle-aged man's intelligence network really was. I sat on a worn leather sofa in his office holding a mug of hot coffee he had just brewed for me, but the scalding liquid couldn't warm my freezing fingertips. "Chloe, Uncle Charlie got everything you asked for," Charlie said, sighing heavily. "I've been in this game for over 20 years, seen every kind of scumbag under the sun, but a family as utterly depraved and bottomless as Jacob's, this is a first. Brace yourself." He pushed a thick, heavy manila envelope across the desk toward me. It looked like Pandora's box. Inside were the last 3 years of my youth fed to the dogs. I took a deep breath, put down the mug, and tried to steady my hands. I unwound the string on the envelope and dumped the massive stack of documents, photos, and a USB drive onto the coffee table. The first thing that caught my eye was an ultrasound printout from a rural clinic. It clearly displayed the name Jessica Miller, age 24, gestational age 20 weeks. And on the signature line for the spouse, the name Jacob Davis was signed in bold handwriting. Under relationship, it explicitly stated, husband. My heart seized. Even though I already knew Jessica was pregnant, seeing this ultrasound with Jacob's signature hit me with an intense, suffocating wave of nausea. 20 weeks. 5 months. 5 months ago, Jacob and I were frantically running around the city planning our wedding. I had spent days hunting down the perfect tailored tuxedo for him, and while I was doing that, he was in a hospital with another woman shamelessly signing documents as her husband. I gritted my teeth and kept flipping. Next was a massive stack of bank statements and Venmo, Zelle transaction logs. Just as I saw at the bank, $50,000 had been clearly wired to Jessica's account. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Charlie had managed to recover 3 years of text messages between Jacob and Jessica. I picked up a few screenshots of their texts. After reading just a few lines, my stomach churned bile rising to the back of my throat. Jessica, are you going to see that ugly bitch tonight? I'm scared alone in this cheap apartment. The baby misses his daddy. Jacob, be good, baby. Just endure it a little longer. That idiot got her bonus today. I'm currently sweet-talking her into buying me that Rolex Submariner I've been eyeing. Once I get the watch, I'll make up an excuse to come see you tomorrow. She's just an ATM. I'm only using her. My heart belongs entirely to you and our son. Jessica. When are you going to marry her then? And when you do, how soon can we get our hands on her house? I refuse to let my son be born in this dump. Jacob. Soon. We're locking down the wedding details now. That moron is completely devoted to me. Her parents are blind too, they think I'm honest. Once we're married, I'll figure out a way to get my name on her penthouse deed. Once it's on there, I have 100 ways to make her leave with nothing. Hell, I could even make her disappear without a trace. Then everything she has is ours. ATM. Idiot. Disappear without a trace. These words were like poisoned needles stabbing directly into my eyes. My body shook uncontrollably. Tears welled up, but I forcefully blinked them back. I could not cry. Shedding tears for human trash like this was an insult to myself. I kept flipping. I saw logs of the cheap motels they frequented, and even surveillance stills of Martha and Jessica happily shopping for baby clothes at a suburban mall. For 3 years, this family had acted like parasitic leeches, attaching themselves to me, sucking my blood while laughing at my stupidity behind my back. The poor boy who sheltered me from the rain. Just a calculated act. The farm-fresh vegetables his mother brought. Scraps she bought from the discount bin at the local market. The distant cousin, his high school sweetheart and common-law wife from his hometown. Chloe, are you okay? Charlie asked quietly. Do you need some water? This evidence is bulletproof. If you take this to a divorce attorney right now, not only will he leave with nothing, but you can claw back that 50 grand. As for the texts plotting for your assets, while it might be hard to get an attempted murder charge to stick just on texts, it's enough to ruin his reputation in this city forever. He'll never be able to show his face again. I gripped the stack of texts so tightly my fingernails dug into my palms, sending sharp spikes of pain through my hands. It's not enough, Uncle Charlie, I said, my voice eerily calm. Making him leave with nothing and ruining his reputation is way too light a punishment. He conned my heart, plotted to steal my family's fortune, and literally planned to kill me. If I don't make this family of 3 pay 1,000 times over, if I don't send them straight to the bottom of hell, I will never find peace. Charlie looked at my bloodshot eyes, fell silent for a moment, and then nodded heavily. All right, kid. You've got spine. Reminds me of your old man. Since you call me Uncle Charlie, I'm with you to the end. What's your play? What do you need me to do, Uncle Charlie? I've set a trap for them. A fake corporate investment, requiring $1 million. Jacob has taken the bait. He's about to go to the underground loan sharks to fill the gap. I need you to keep a hawk's eye on him. I want to know exactly which loan shark he goes to, how much he borrows, and every single clause in the contract he signs. I want him to get this money easily, but when it's time to pay it back, I want it to cost him his life. Charlie let out a dark chuckle and patted his chest. Consider it done. I know every loan shark and mobster in this city. If he goes to them, I'll get a copy of the contract he signs in blood. But Chloe, you need to be careful. A cornered dog will bite. Your situation is dangerous. I know. That's why I'm here today. Besides getting the evidence, I have to pull off a lethal bait and switch right under their noses. Leaving Charlie's office, I didn't go home. I drove straight to the largest private wealth management bank in the city center. Besides the multi-million-dollar penthouse, I had investment portfolios, cash savings my parents had built up for me, and millions of dollars worth of high-end heirloom jewelry given to me as a dowry. Combined, my net worth was tens of millions. Jacob's endgame was to swallow all of this whole. If they wanted to eat, I was going to hollow out the meat and leave them nothing but a poisoned, empty shell. Sitting in the bank's VIP vault room, I handed my portfolio cards to my private wealth advisor. Liquidate all my stocks, mutual funds, and accessible cash accounts immediately. Transfer every single cent into the offshore family trust account under my father's name. Move fast. Leave zero paper trail connecting it to my personal name. The advisor nodded respectfully and began typing furiously. Within 30 minutes, every drop of my liquid wealth was safely locked away in a fortress Jacob could never ever touch. What I left behind were a few bank cards that looked full on paper, but had zero withdrawal capabilities. Next, I went down into the subterranean safety deposit vault. I opened my personal box. Inside lay my expensive dowry jewelry. The crown jewel was an antique, flawless Colombian emerald necklace worth $2. $5 million, alongside a 5-carat flawless pink diamond ring. They were my mother's family heirlooms. I carefully placed the genuine pieces into a plain black velvet pouch. From my purse, I pulled out several exquisite jewelry boxes. Inside were master-crafted replicas I had commissioned overnight from a top theatrical prop master in the city, costing me a few $1,000s. Whether it was weight clarity or the cut to the naked eye, they were indistinguishable from the real thing. Only a professional jeweler with specialized equipment could tell that these emeralds and diamonds were nothing but worthless glass and moissanite. I placed the fakes into the vault, arranging them exactly how the real ones had been. Closing the vault, a freezing smile crept onto my face. Jessica, you want my jewelry so badly. Martha, you want to leave my things for your grandson. Sure, take them. I can't wait to see your twisted, despairing faces when you try to pawn them. The final step of the bait and switch was the penthouse. I drove to the law offices of Uncle Arthur, my dad's chief legal counsel, and a man who had watched me grow up. Chloe, that post-nuptial agreement you had me draft yesterday, did Jacob actually sign it? Uncle Arthur asked. I placed the document with Jacob's signature and thumbprint on Arthur's desk. He signed it. He didn't even read it. He was too blinded by the 300% return. Uncle Arthur shook his head in disgust. The kid's greed is terminal. With this agreement, any loan shark debt he takes on is entirely his sole legal responsibility. As long as you don't co-sign, creditors can't touch you. And once he's caught cheating, he walks away with nothing. But Chloe, what about the penthouse? If he brings $1 million to buy half the equity, are you actually going to put his name on the deed? I sneered. Put his name on it. He doesn't even deserve it in his dreams. Uncle Arthur, I need you to draft an ironclad, legally binding mortgage lien right now. State that prior to my marriage, due to a massive failed private investment, I took a $30 million hard money loan from my father's corporation. This penthouse is the sole collateral. Add a default trigger clause that allows the property's title to be transferred unconditionally to my dad's company at my sole discretion. Uncle Arthur slapped his desk, his eyes lighting up with sharp, predatory approval. Brilliant. That's pulling the rug right out from under him. As long as this penthouse carries a $30 million lien legally, it is a negative asset. Even if Jacob gets his name on the deed, he isn't getting real estate, he's signing up to be jointly liable for a $30 million debt. Haha. Excellent, leave it to me. I'll make it so watertight that the Supreme Court couldn't poke a hole in it. By the time I left the law firm, it was dusk. Sitting in my car looking at the city skyline, I exhaled a long breath. Assets transferred. Fake jewels swapped. The death trap mortgage activated. My vault, once filled with gold, was now an empty shell lined with poison spikes. Jacob and his family had their jaws wide open, dreaming of becoming millionaires, completely unaware they were about to swallow a live grenade. I started the engine and drove back to the hellhole they called home. As soon as I parked in the underground garage, I put in my earpiece and opened the surveillance app to check on their progress with the $1 million. Through the earpiece, the living room was loud. "Jacob, I'm back," Martha yelled. Oh Lord, my old bones are practically falling apart from the bus ride. On the screen, Martha burst through the front door looking exhausted but manic. She was carrying a filthy, worn-out black duffel bag. She looked like a thief as she rushed to close the curtains tight. I got it, Jacob." I threw my pride out the window. I went back to the country and hit up your uncles, your cousins, everyone. I told them you needed a bridge loan to close on a mansion. I promised them 10% interest in 1 month. Jessica practically leaped off the couch and ripped open the duffel bag. Inside were stacks of cash, some crisp, some old, some just crumpled, low-denomination bills smelling of sweat and mold. This was the life savings, the retirement funds of those poor country relatives. But to Martha and Jacob, it was just a stepping stone to their wealthy future. "Mom, how much is in here?" Jessica shrieked. Martha patted her chest proudly. $300,000. Not a penny less. Combined with the 50 grand. In Jessica's account, we have $350K. Jacob, what about the other dollar? $650K. Did you find a guy? Jacob's face shifted, a mix of intense excitement and raw, barely suppressed terror. He swallowed hard and lowered his voice. "I found a guy, Mom." I asked around. "The only guy in town who loans that kind of cash that fast without upfront collateral is Frankie the Razor, down on the south side. I've set up a meeting for 8:00 p.m. tonight at his underground casino. If I sign the papers, the $650K is mine." Hearing Frankie the Razor and underground casino, Martha shuddered. "Jacob, isn't the interest on loan shark money deadly? What if something goes wrong? They'll kill us." Jacob turned to her, his eyes wild, feral, and utterly psychotic. His gentle mask was entirely gone. "Mom, no risk, no reward. We have $350K. Chloe, that idiot guaranteed me the corporate investment slot. 1 million goes in, 3 million comes out in a month. We take the cash, pay off the loan shark, and we still have over $1 million in pure profit to keep plus half the penthouse. This is the deal of a lifetime. Even if the devil himself was lending the money, I'd take it." Jessica fueled his mania. "Exactly, Mom. Jacob is right. Do you want to go back to living in a trailer? Do you want your grandson to grow up poor? Once this month is over, we're the elite. That bitch Chloe won't even be fit to shine my shoes." The three of them looked like deranged gamblers shoving all their chips into the center of a table rigged to explode. I laughed coldly in my car. 10% interest. Stealing your relative's retirement funds. Going to Frankie the Razor. Jacob, you truly picked the most gruesome way to die. I knew of Frankie the Razor. He was infamous in the city's underworld. His rule was standard for mob loans. You borrow the money you pay, exorbitant weekly, vigorous, and if you miss a payment, he takes pieces of you. At 7:30 p.m., Jacob left the apartment, claiming he had an emergency client meeting. I immediately texted Charlie. "Uncle Charlie, he's heading to Frankie on the south side. I need full audio and video. Clear footage of the contract signing." Charlie replied in seconds. "Relax. I have a guy inside Frankie's club. I'll get you a 4K video of him signing his life away." I went upstairs, acting exhausted from work. Martha and Jessica instantly dropped their greedy expressions and reverted to their fake timid personas. "Chloe, you're back," Martha smiled. "I made you some chamomile tea. Jacob had to run out to meet a client. He'll be back soon." I smiled, taking the tea. "Thank you, Mom. Jacob works so hard for this family. I'm getting a headache from staring at spreadsheets all day. I'm going to lay down. Don't bother me for a while." I locked myself in the master bedroom. For the next 2 hours, Jacob was going to experience the most thrilling and fatal moment of his life. I opened my phone. Charlie had linked me to a live feed. The screen showed a smoky, dimly lit basement. Tough guys with neck tattoos were playing cards at a table. Deep in the back, sitting on a leather sofa, was a man with a scarred face. Frankie. Jacob stood in front of Frankie, rigid sweating, profusely looking like a lamb at the slaughter. "Jacob, right," Frankie said, blowing cigar smoke. "My guy says you need $650K. You know my rules. You don't just borrow here. You borrow $650K, but I take my cut up front. You walk out with $550K. Term is 30 days. Principal plus interest, you owe me $1 million flat. You miss the deadline by 1 minute, I take a leg. You want the cash or not? $1 million owed in 30 days. Over $300, 0 inches pure interest." Jacob's knees visibly buckled. But he gritted his teeth, the gambler's insanity flashing in his eyes. "Frankie, the interest is steep. But I can pay it. I'm the son-in-law of Richard, the CEO of the Richard Corporation. I'm closing a massive internal deal. In a month, I'll clear $3 million. I'll pay you $1.1 million just for the favor." He was using my father's name as a shield. Frankie sneered. "I don't give a rat's ass who your father-in-law is. You could be the president's son-in-law. My rules are my rules. Since you don't have collateral, sign the contract in blood, and my boys are going to take a video of you holding your ID stating the debt. You don't pay, I send the video to your billionaire father-in-law and have him pay. Sign. Jacob didn't hesitate. Driven by pure greed, he sold his soul. He signed the extortionate loan contract, pressed his bloodied thumb to the paper, and humiliatingly recorded the collateral video. When he walked out of that basement, clutching a heavy black garbage bag full of cash, he had no idea he hadn't signed a loan, he had signed his own death warrant. And thanks to that post-nuptial agreement, every cent of that mob debt belonged solely to him. At 10:00 p.m., the front door unlocked. I sat on the living room sofa as Jacob strutted in like a conquering general. He was pale, a little spooked, but he held that black garbage bag with a death grip, vibrating with extreme euphoria. "Honey, I'm back," he announced. He walked up and slammed the black garbage bag and Martha's dirty duffel bag onto the coffee table with a massive thud. "Chloe, I did it. I got the $1 million. He looked at me, his eyes shining with expectation, greed, and a hidden smugness. He was probably already imagining my dad signing the penthouse deed over to him. I stood up, looked at the pile of cash that smelled of mold and stale smoke, and gave him the most brilliant, tender smile. "Oh my God, honey, you are incredible. In just one day you actually got the $1 million. I knew I didn't marry the wrong man. You've sacrificed so much for our future." Jacob, floating on my praise, grabbed my hands passionately. "Chloe, if it proves I'm worthy of you, if it means I can finally stand tall as your husband, I'll endure any hardship." So, the corporate investment slot. I smoothly pulled my hands away and patted his shoulder. "Don't worry, my dad has the slot reserved. Since you have the cash, we won't delay. Tomorrow morning, I'll take you to the corporate headquarters. We'll sign the contract and wire the cash into the secure corporate account. It's a highly classified project. The sooner we sign, the safer it is." Jacob nodded frantically. Yes, let's go tomorrow morning." The next morning, I took Jacob to my dad's corporate high-rise. I didn't take him to the CEO's office on the top floor. I took him to a small conference room on the 16th floor. Waiting inside was a man in a sharp suit and gold-rimmed glasses. Mr. Lee, the head of our legal department and the co-star of today's scam. "Honey, this is Mr. Lee, the chief compliance officer. He handles the contracts for this classified project," I said. Jacob practically bowed, smiling like a subservient dog. "Mr. Lee, it's an honor. Thank you for your help, Mr." Lee maintained a cold professional expression, pulling a thick contract out of his briefcase and sliding it toward Jacob. "Mr. Davis, because this is a top-secret executive investment to prevent capital tracking, your $1 million investment must be routed through a wholly owned shell subsidiary. It will be held in isolation for 30 days. Upon maturity, the principal and the 300% return will automatically be wired back to your personal account. Here are the NDAs and the investment contracts. Please review. If there are no issues, sign the last page." Jacob was entirely blinded by the 300% return. He had no patience to read the legal jargon. He only saw principal and 300% return automatically wired back. He snatched the pen and began signing frantically. "Jacob Davis. Jacob Davis. Jacob Davis." Standing behind him, watching his hand shake with excitement as he signed, I couldn't hide my smile anymore. This wholly owned shell subsidiary was actually an LLC I had registered in my name. The contract he was signing wasn't an investment agreement. Buried in the complex legal clauses, it was actually an unconditional, interest-free personal loan from him to my LLC, explicitly stating that my company had the right to indefinitely delay repayment. He wasn't getting a cent of profit. He was never going to see his $1 million principal again. The lethal bait and switch was flawlessly executed the second his pen lifted from the paper. The following weeks were strangely peaceful. Jacob came home every day looking flushed and energized, acting like a multimillionaire in waiting. Martha stopped complaining about prices and started loudly debating which luxury brands she was going to buy. And Jessica. She completely lost her mind. As the 30-day maturity date approached, she stopped pretending to respect me. She started demanding I do chores, critiqued my cooking at dinner, and flagrantly went into my master bedroom when I wasn't home to raid my closet and vanity. One afternoon, I intentionally left work an hour early. As I unlocked the front door, I heard loud, unrestrained laughter coming from my bedroom. I walked silently to the doorway. Through the half-open door, I witnessed a hysterical scene. Jessica was standing in front of my full-length mirror. Around her neck was the emerald necklace I had swapped out, and on her finger was the massive pink diamond. She was squeezing her pregnant belly into a tight sequin dress, striking arrogant poses in the mirror. Oh my God, Jessica squealed to herself. Real emeralds feel so different, so cold and heavy. Once Jacob's money clears, this house is mine and all these jewels are mine. That stupid bitch. Her whole life is just paving the way for me. She picked up my $100 Tom Ford lipstick and smeared it violently across her lips. I leaned against the doorframe watching her pathetic clown act and spoke in a cold, flat voice. "Cousin Jessica, does my necklace fit?" Jessica jumped out of her skin. The lipstick dropped to the floor. She spun around her face instantly, turning chalk white. She instinctively reached up to unclasp the necklace, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't undo the latch. "See, Chloe, why are you home so early?" she stammered. The stolen goods were literally hanging around her neck. In the past, I would have slapped her across the face, but now she just looked like a ridiculous jester. I walked slowly into the room, staring at her coldly. "Those are family heirlooms from my mother. They're worth millions. A distant country cousin like you, wearing something so priceless. Aren't you afraid of bad karma? Take it off. Now." Terrified by my icy tone, Jessica fumbled and finally got the necklace off, holding it out to me. But the second she handed it over, the fear in her eyes vanished, replaced by a malicious, desperate hostility. She suddenly grabbed her pregnant belly, threw herself onto the floor, and started screaming at the top of her lungs. Chloe, why did you push me, my baby? My stomach hurts so much. Help, Jacob, Mom, Chloe is trying to kill my baby." The classic villain's maneuver. She was caught stealing fake jewelry and decided to frame me for assault to hold me hostage with her unborn child. Hearing the screams, Martha and Jacob rushed in from the living room. Seeing Jessica writhing on the floor, Martha went ballistic, rushing forward and violently shoving me. "Chloe, are you insane?" Martha shrieked. "Do you know she's sick and pregnant? If anything happens to her, can you pay for it?" Jacob's face darkened, his eyes glaring at me with raw, venomous hatred, the look you give a mortal enemy. "Chloe, you went too far. Even if she touched your things without asking, you shouldn't have hit her. You pretend to be so sweet, but you're vicious on the inside." Looking at their hideous faces, listening to their blatant, disgusting lies, I didn't explode in anger. Instead, my rage crystallized into absolute zero. I knew the hidden camera in the corner was recording every second of this in high definition. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just looked at them, a terrifying smile curving my lips. "Okay, very well. Since you care about her so much, you better protect her well for the next 2 days." I paused, sweeping my gaze across all three of them, my voice colder than a winter storm. "Because the day after tomorrow is my father's 60th birthday banquet. Not only am I taking all of you to the party, but in front of our entire family and the entire corporate elite, I am going to give you a gift. A gift you will never, ever forget." The countdown was at 2 days. 2 days flew by. Today was my dad's 60th birthday. To ensure the grand finale was as spectacular as possible, my dad rented out the entire top-floor grand ballroom of the city's most exclusive 5-star hotel. The entire executive board of the corporation, powerful business partners, and our extended family, hundreds of the city's elite, were in attendance. Meanwhile, inside my penthouse, Jacob's family of 3 was in a state of manic, feverish excitement. Because today was exactly 30 days since Jacob made his $1 million investment. In his delusions, today wasn't just his father-in-law's birthday. It was the day he became a multi-millionaire. The day he finally seized power. That morning, I walked out of my room in my evening gown. I was physically nauseated by the sight in the living room. Martha was wearing a horrific, cheap, bright red sequin dress she probably bought at a flea market for $20. It stretched tightly over her flabby frame, her face caked in thick white foundation and aggressively red lipstick. She looked like a circus clown. Jessica was even worse. She had squeezed her pregnant body into a highly revealing, tacky, glittery gown. Worst of all, around her neck hung the fake emerald necklace she had stolen from me, and the fake pink diamond was on her finger. She had even piled on a bunch of cheap, fake gold bangles. She looked like a walking display case at a pawn shop. "Oh my lord," Jessica Martha gushed. "You look like a billionaire's wife today. That big green rock is blinding. You gotta show those city snobs our family's prestige today." Jessica smugly touched the fake emeralds, lifting her chin with insufferable arrogance. "Don't worry, Mom. Once Jacob's 3 million clears today, tomorrow I'm going to 5th Avenue and buying out every designer store. Jacob, you have to be tough today. In front of all those rich snobs, you slam that 3 million on the table and force that woman to put your name on the deed. If you don't, I won't forgive you." Jacob had gone to a salon to get his hair slicked back. Wearing his custom tuxedo, he looked flushed with triumph, looking like he already owned the world. Don't worry, Jessica. Today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In front of all those CEOs, I'll reveal my $3 million and demand to buy half the house. If her parents refuse, they'll be publicly humiliated. I am getting that house today. Come on, let's go to the party in style. I stood by the doorway watching these three clowns consumed by greed. A chilling smile on my lips. Honey, Mom, cousin. Are you ready? We should go. Dad is waiting for us to greet the guests. Hearing my voice, they instantly dropped their arrogant sneers and plastered on their fake smiles. Jacob hurried over, hypocritically taking my arm. Honey, you look stunning today. Let's go, we can't keep Dad waiting. I didn't shake him off. I obediently followed them downstairs and into the limousine. The whole ride, Jacob rubbed his hands together excitedly, looking out the window, clearly visualizing his glorious, wealthy future. I just stared out the window at the passing city, silently counting down the minutes to their execution. At 1:100 a.m., our family stepped into the magnificent ballroom. Massive crystal chandeliers bathed the room in glittering light. A string quartet played softly in the corner. The room was packed with the city's most powerful people. Walking in, Martha and Jessica looked like they had just stepped onto another planet. Their eyes darted everywhere, greedily staring at the extravagant towers of seafood, the towers of champagne, and the wealthy socialites in designer gowns. Holy Mother of God, Martha whispered loudly. This is like a royal palace, Jacob. Look at that lobster, it's bigger than my arm. How much does that cost? Jessica completely forgot her shy cousin act. She waddled through the crowd, deliberately thrusting her chest out to make sure everyone saw the fake emerald necklace, smiling at everyone, as if she were the hostess of the ball. My parents were standing by the entrance, greeting guests. Seeing us, my dad's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but my mom warmly waved us over. Jacob, you're here. Take your mother and cousin to the VIP table by the stage. It's busy today, make yourselves at home. Jacob puffed out his chest, cleared his throat, and raised his voice so the surrounding guests could hear him. Mom, you look so young today. Dad wishing you a happy 60th birthday. You know, Dad, today is a double celebration. Remember that internal corporate investment I made a month ago? Today is the maturity date. This isn't just your birthday. It's the day I prove my worth to you. The surrounding guests immediately turned their heads, murmuring curiously. Everyone knew Jacob was a poor guy from the country. Now he was boasting about making huge money. My dad looked at Jacob's smug, punchable face. A cold, ruthless mockery flashed in his eyes, but his expression remained blank. Oh, is that so, Jacob? It's good for young men to have ambition, but you have to keep your feet on the ground. Don't try to swallow an elephant in one bite. Go sit down. We'll talk when the banquet begins. Jacob thought my dad was just embarrassed to acknowledge him in front of outsiders. He felt even more triumphant. He signaled Martha and Jessica, and the three of them strutted over to the prime VIP table like they owned the place. At noon, the banquet officially began. The MC gave a warm speech and invited my dad to say a few words. After my dad spoke, tradition dictated that the daughter and son-in-law would go up on stage to offer a toast and a gift. Just then, Jacob jumped out of his chair like a rooster ready for a fight. He adjusted his suit jacket, marched onto the stage, and literally grabbed the microphone out of the MC's hand. The entire ballroom went dead silent. Hundreds of eyes locked onto the man who had just hijacked the stage. Distinguished guests, family, friends, good afternoon. Jacob boomed into the mic. I am Jacob Davis, son-in-law to the CEO of Richard Corporation. Today is my father-in-law's 60th birthday. As a member of this family, I have a very special, incredibly valuable gift to present to my in-laws and to my beloved wife, Chloe. Martha, sitting at the VIP table, was flushed bright red, clapping her hands violently. Jessica stood up, ready to bask in the applause of the elites. Jacob turned, looking at me with deep fake affection, and raised his voice to a shout. A month ago, to prove I was worthy of Chloe, I borrowed from everyone I knew to raise $1 million. I invested it into a highly classified corporate project. Today, that project matured. With principal and interest, a massive $3 million has hit my account. Dad, Mom, Chloe. I am not just paying back my debts today. I am using my hard-earned money to formally buy half the equity of the penthouse we live in. I want everyone here to know. I, Jacob Davis, am not a freeloader. I am a real man who can provide for his wife. The speech was incredibly limpid, passionate and loud. If you didn't know the truth, you'd be moved to tears by this underdog story of a man fighting for his dignity. A wave of polite applause rippled through the ballroom. Jacob stood on stage, soaking in the spotlight. His vanity was fed to bursting. He looked down at me, his eyes full of pressure and coercion. The meaning was clear. I showed everyone my money. If you and your parents refuse to put my name on the deed right now, you'll look like cruel snobs in front of high society. He was publicly blackmailing us with social pressure. I looked up at his arrogant, grotesque performance. The cold smile I had been holding back finally broke free. The show was finally starting. I stood up slowly, lifted the hem of my gown, and under the gaze of hundreds of elites, walked gracefully up the steps and onto the stage. I walked right up to Jacob and took the microphone from his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests," I said, my voice ringing clear. "I'm sure you all heard what my husband just said. To prove himself, he has indeed put in an unimaginable amount of effort. As his wife on this very special day, I also have an incredibly special gift for my good husband, and for my good mother-in-law, and for my good cousin sitting right there at the VIP table." I emphasized the words, "good cousin." Hundreds of heads instantly whipped around, following my gaze to the VIP table, locking onto Jessica in her tacky dress, pregnant belly, and gaudy jewels. Jacob's face twitched. He sensed something was horribly wrong, but buoyed by his delusion of having $3 million, he tried to play it off. "Honey, what gift? Today is Dad's birthday. Can we do this at home?" "At home, no," I smiled sweetly. "This gift has to be opened right here in front of everyone for it to be a real surprise." I turned toward the AV booth at the back of the room and snapped my fingers sharply. "Turn on the main screen." As soon as the words left my mouth, the massive LED screen behind the stage flared to life. The ballroom lights dimmed instantly. The room fell into a dead, tense silence. Only the cold light from the screen illuminated our faces. It wasn't a happy birthday montage. It was a high-resolution scan of a hospital ultrasound. It was blown up so large that every single word stabbed like a sword. Patient Jessica Miller. Gestational age 20 weeks. Spouse signature Jacob Davis. Relationship husband. Boom. The ballroom exploded. It was like a bomb had gone off. Gasps and shrieks echoed across the room. The elite stared in absolute shock. What the hell is this? Isn't Jacob married to Chloe? Who is Jessica? Oh my God, the signature says husband. That pregnant woman at the VIP table, that's Jessica. She's not his cousin. This is bigamy. This broke kid is hiding a pregnant mistress. The whispers turned into a roar. The moment Jacob saw the ultrasound on the big screen, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. The blood drained from his face in less than a second, leaving him as pale as a corpse. He stumbled backward in terror, his body shaking violently. This is fake," Jacob stammered into the mic, panicked. "Chloe, someone is framing me. That's not my signature. I don't know what this is." He was still trying to lie. Still fighting a losing battle. Down at the VIP table, Martha had completely frozen. She collapsed out of her chair and onto the floor, the fork slipping from her hand. Jessica was ashen, clutching her belly, her eyes wide with terror. I ignored Jacob's pathetic excuses. I spoke coldly into the mic. "Fake Jacob, you think this is over. This is just the appetizer. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to a very interesting audio recording." The screen switched to an audio visualizer. Instantly, the state-of-the-art surround sound system began blasting a crystal-clear, incredibly venomous conversation. It was the recording I made from under the bed on my wedding night. Martha's shrill, greedy voice echoed off the walls. "Once his name is on the deed, half the house is ours. Then we slowly bleed her parents dry." Jessica's jealous sneer followed. "Why does she get to live in a mansion like this? I'm the one carrying Jacob's actual flesh and blood. A big, healthy baby boy. Why does that spoiled brat get all this bother?" But the most lethal blow was Jacob's own cold, ruthless voice echoing through the silent ballroom. "Once I get you settled in the city and you have the baby, he has a way to deal with her. Young people these days get severe depression all the time, right? Or they get into tragic car crashes. As long as she's dead and gone, the house, the cars, the cash, it all goes to Jacob." When this blood-curdling murder plot was broadcasted to hundreds of people, the air in the room froze. The guests were enraged. They didn't look at Jacob's family as a joke anymore. They looked at them like psychopathic murderers. Animals. Absolute animals. Gold digging is one thing, but they planned to murder her. "Call the police." Arrest these sociopaths right now. My dad standing near the front was purple with rage. His fists were clenched so tight his veins bulged. He signaled his security team, who immediately surrounded the VIP table to prevent Martha and Jessica from fleeing. Jacob completely broke. He dropped to his knees on the stage, snot and tears instantly pouring down his face. He crawled over to my feet and hugged my leg like a stray dog, wailing, "Chloe, I was wrong. I was so wrong. My mom and Jessica forced me to say those things. I love you. Please forgive me just this once. For the sake of the $3 million I'm about to get. For the sake of me buying half the house, give me one more chance." Even now, even facing absolute destruction, he was still hallucinating about his imaginary $3 million. He still thought money could buy his way out. I looked at him with profound disgust and kicked him away like kicking away a bag of rotting garbage. $3 million, I sneered. "Jacob, are you still dreaming? Fine. Let me wake you up permanently." I gestured to the AV booth. The screen flickered again. This time, it played a dark, grainy security video from a basement. It was Frankie the loan shark glaring at Jacob. "Borrow $650K, but I take my cut up front. You walk out with $550K. Term is 30 days. Principal plus interest. You owe me $1 million flat. You miss the deadline by 1 minute, I take a leg." And there was Jacob eagerly pressing his bloody thumbprint onto the loan shark contract. Next, the screen displayed a massive close-up of the classified internal investment contract Jacob had signed at my dad's office. Holding the mic, my voice was as cold as a judge handing down a death sentence. I hammered the truth into him word by word. "Jacob, open your greedy eyes and look. That classified internal project. That 300% return. From the very beginning, it was a trap I built specifically for you. That company is a shell company solely owned by me. The contract you signed isn't an investment agreement. It's a personal loan agreement that explicitly allows my company to indefinitely delay repayment. That $1 million you put in will never ever generate a cent of profit, and you will never see your principal again for the rest of your life." Crash. The words struck Jacob like a bolt of lightning straight to the skull. He jerked his head up, his eyes bulging so far out of their sockets they looked like they would pop. He made a choking, gargling sound in his throat like a duck being strangled. "A trap. Shell company. No, that's impossible. You lied to me, Dad. Tell her it's fake. It was top secret." He looked desperately at my dad in the audience, trying to grab onto a lifeline that didn't exist. My dad laughed coldly, his booming voice echoing across the room. "Jacob, you soulless animal. You think a Fortune 500 company runs magic scams that pay 300% in a month? From the moment you plotted to murder my daughter, you were a dead man walking. Consider that $1 million as compensation for the emotional distress you caused my child." That sentence utterly shattered Jacob's final illusion. He finally realized he had been played. I had strung him along like a monkey, but the lethal blows were still coming. I reached into my clutch, pulled out a document, and threw it directly into his face. "Jacob, remember the post-nuptial agreement you signed? It's right there in black and white. If you commit a major fault like infidelity, you walk away with 0 assets, nothing. And every single debt you took on belongs solely to you. I have absolutely nothing to do with it." Jacob frantically grabbed the document off the floor. Looking at his own red thumbprints, he descended into absolute raving madness. "No, I don't accept this. This is fraud. That's your house. Why do I have to take all the debt?" I laughed mockingly, pushing him closer to the abyss. "The house. You thought you could get your name on the deed. Let me tell you a secret. Half a month ago, I took out a $30 million hard money mortgage on that penthouse, collateralized to my dad's corporation. That house is legally a negative asset. Even if I put your name on the deed right now, you wouldn't get a penthouse. You'd be jointly liable for a $30 million debt. You broke, pathetic loser. Could you afford that $30 million in debt? A negative asset." Jacob completely mentally collapsed. His brain simply could not process the sheer magnitude of his destruction. He thought he was plotting for my wealth, totally unaware. I had hollowed it all out, leaving him a bottomless pit of debt. The $650K from the mob. The $350K, stolen from his family's life savings. Not only was it all gone, but he now faced a $1 million violent collection from Frankie and the bloodthirsty rage of his entire hometown. He had absolutely nothing, and owed over $1 million to a killer. Just then, the heavy double doors of the ballroom were violently kicked open. A dozen massive, heavily tattooed enforcers carrying baseball bats stormed into the room. Leading them was the scarred face of Frankie the Razor. This was the special entertainment I had Charlie arrange. 30 days was up. Frankie was here to collect. Frankie walked in, spotted Jacob kneeling on the stage like a dead dog and sneered. He marched right past the security guards my dad had signaled them to stand down. This was a private debt dispute. Let the dogs eat each other. Frankie walked up to the stage, grabbed Jacob by his slicked back hair and violently hauled him to his feet. Jacob, you got some big balls, kid. Using the Richard Corporation to vouch for you, today's the day. Where's my $1,000,000? If you don't have my cash right now, I'm gonna chop you into dog meat right in front of all these fancy people. Jacob was so terrified he literally pissed his pants. A dark puddle formed on the stage, smelling of urine. He thrashed wildly, pointing frantically at Jessica and Martha at the VIP table. Frankie, don't kill me, the money isn't with me, they have it, that woman. The necklace she's wearing is real Colombian emerald. It's worth $2.5 million, and the pink diamond is worth millions. Take those, take the jewels to cover the debt. Please let me go. In the face of death, this so-called devoted lover and filial son didn't hesitate for a second to throw his mother and his pregnant mistress under the bus to save his own skin. Frankie's eyes instantly locked onto the terrified Jessica. Seeing the massive, glittering green stones around her neck, a greedy light sparked in his eyes. He jumped off the stage, stormed over to Jessica, grabbed her by the throat, and violently ripped the necklace off her neck. Jessica let out a blood-curdling scream. My necklace, Jacob, you son of a bitch. You're letting them rob me." Frankie held the necklace up, weighing it in his hand. As an underworld boss who dealt in stolen goods, he just needed one look under the chandelier light to see the truth. His face instantly turned purple with rage. Smack Frankie backhanded Jessica with brutal force, sending her crashing to the floor, blood dripping from her mouth. "You stupid bitch," Frankie roared. "You try to pay me off with fucking glass. This is a $30 piece of garbage from a swap meet. Jacob, you motherfucker, you think you can play me?" "Fake garbage." Jessica touched her bleeding, swollen face, staring in total disbelief at the fake necklace on the floor, then down at the pink diamond on her hand. I stood on the stage, looking down at her, letting out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Jessica, did you really think you could steal my family heirlooms? From the day you moved into my house, everything in that vault was replaced with worthless glass. You've been strutting around for weeks, wearing literal garbage. Did it feel good? You thought you hooked a billionaire. You actually hooked a useless, broke loser who owes $1 million to the mob and is about to go to prison." Jessica completely lost her mind. From a supposed billionaire's wife-to-be, she instantly plummeted into a penniless mistress saddled with mob debt. The astronomical drop shattered her sanity. She scrambled up from the floor and charged the stage like a rabid animal, throwing herself onto Jacob, clawing at his face and biting him. "Jacob, you liar, you bastard, give me my 50 grand back. Give me back my youth. You're an animal who plotted to kill his own wife. I must have been blind to follow you. Give me my money, Jacob." His face, bleeding from her nails, snapped. He backhanded Jessica, knocking her to the ground, and the two began brawling on the stage like feral dogs. "You cheap whore," Jacob screamed. "If you hadn't constantly nagged me about getting the house, would I have gone to the loan sharks? You're a curse. You ruined me." Martha, seeing her son being attacked by the mistress, shrieked and threw herself into the fray, joining the grotesque melee. "You shameless slut. Don't touch my son. Give me back my money. You blew all $300,000 of our family's money. They're gonna kill me when I go back home." The three of them ripped at each other's clothes, pulled hair, and screamed the most vile curses imaginable on the stage. The loving family had completely cannibalized each other the second their scheme collapsed, revealing their true monstrous natures. It was a perfectly ironic, ugly spectacle of dogs biting dogs. The guests watched the brawl with absolute disgust and contempt. Suddenly, the piercing wail of police sirens echoed from outside the hotel. Several squad cars pulled up. A dozen heavily armed police officers stormed into the ballroom. The lead detective flashed his badge, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Police, nobody move. Who is Jacob Davis, Martha Davis, and Jessica Miller?" Hearing the police, the three brawling monsters froze instantly. Their faces turned gray, and they slumped onto the stage like puddles of mud. Frankie and his goons tried to slip out the back, but were immediately detained by the officers. Charlie stepped out from behind the police line and gave me a nod. "Chloe. All the evidence, the audio, plotting murder, the bank fraud, the embezzlement, and the extortion, has been handed over to the D.A. They are beyond saving." The officers pulled out handcuffs and snapped them onto Jacob's wrists without mercy. The cold bite of the steel finally made Jacob realize his life was permanently over. "Jacob Davis," the detective said coldly. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit murder." "Martha Davis, Jessica Miller, you're under arrest as accomplices. Save your excuses for the precinct. Move." As he was dragged away, Jacob wailed like a slaughtered pig. He turned his head, looking at me with absolute horrifying despair. "Chloe, I was wrong. Save me. I don't want to go to prison." I stood high on the stage, looking down at him like a speck of dust. "Jacob, what goes around comes around. Go to hell and atone for what you've done." The police dragged the three of them out of the ballroom like dead dogs, their agonized, despairing screams echoing down the hall until they faded away. The ballroom slowly returned to quiet. My dad walked onto the stage and hugged me tight. My mom was crying in the front row, but her eyes were full of pride. "Honored guests," my dad announced. "I apologize for the disturbance. Today my daughter Chloe personally excised a cancer from our family, and I am proud to announce that starting tomorrow, Chloe will officially take over as Executive Vice President of the Richard Corporation." Thunderous applause erupted across the room. It wasn't just for my dad. It was for me, the survivor, who clawed her way back from the brink of death to send the devils straight to hell. 3 months later, the verdicts were handed down. Jacob was convicted of multiple felonies and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The massive debts he acquired through fraud and loan sharks were entirely his to bear. Even when he eventually gets out, he will be a broken man, drowning in millions of dollars of unpayable debt with no chance of ever recovering. Martha, as an accomplice, was sentenced to 3 years. But in prison, she constantly received death threats and curses from the relatives whose life savings she stole. I heard her mind finally snapped, and she was transferred to a psychiatric ward within the prison system. As for Jessica, because she was pregnant, her sentence was suspended. She gave birth to a baby boy, but because all of Jacob's remaining assets were frozen and seized by creditors, she didn't get a single dime. Furthermore, because her name was tied to the fraudulent asset transfers, Frankie's men tracked her down to collect the debt. Now she's living like a rat, hiding in the city's worst homeless encampments with a baby living a life worse than a stray dog. This was the ultimate price for her greed and her fantasy of stealing my life. After finalizing the divorce, I was completely free of that disgusting nightmare. I sat in my spacious, sunlit vice president's office at corporate headquarters. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city skyline gleamed under the bright, warm sun. I picked up my coffee and took a slow sip. It was sweet. My life had just begun. And those monsters, they can rot forever in the bottomless abyss they dug for themselves. That's the end of today's story. We hope the stories we share here help you let go of your troubles and find a little peace of mind. Wherever you are listening from, we wish you well. May this bring a little sunshine to your day. Thanks for listening.